It's finally here, Godot 4.5 Beta 1. Every time you think Godot can't get any better, they put out a new version. Well, we haven't got it yet, but we've got the 4.5 beta, and we're going to be taking a look at the patch notes to see what we can expect from this latest update. So let's have a look at the highlights here. We're going down to look at the breaking changes. So we've got tile map physics. They're handled in chunks now. Deal with it. Internal nodes are no longer duplicated. Okay. Node one-shot fading now uses self-delta instead of input delta. Great. Navigation 2D and 3D region and link updates are now asynchronous, so watch out for that. Navigation server 2D avoidance callbacks change from vector 3 to vector 2. Alrighty. Remove the Gradle build compress native layer export option with Android builds. All right. If you're exporting your APKs outside of Google Play, I suppose that matters. One for me, area detects static body. I made an entire video about how I'm trying to figure out why my areas didn't detect my objects. Turns out it was this, but now it's always enabled, which is great. You won't be scratching your head for a whole day trying to figure that out. Set scope removed from JSON RPC. I don't know what that means, but it's been removed. Okay, let's have a look at animations. Okay, so we've got work by Tokage put into implementing bone constraint 3D. Let's have a look at it. You can see when it's enabled, the knee looks right. When it's disabled, it don't. And then we've got what looks like filtering for our animation player, which is going to be great for more complicated animations. Because I've got some big ones in some of the projects that I've been working on. And yeah, looking for the right thing can be a nightmare. So that's really helpful. Okay, audio and video. We can seek Theora video files via the new set stream position function. Awesome. And multi-channel audio resampler, meaning videos with 6+ channels will no longer crackle. So great if you've had that problem. C#, who cares? Core, this is going to be super important. Linux Bionic RID export support. Also, I don't know what any of this means. I'll trust you on this. Is good. 60 times decrease in resources. String name, unimplemented getters and setters saw staggering 60 times decrease in resources. Something Delta knew is not most people, because he's done it. He's made it way better in C#, which I don't. Not everything related to .NET was able to make it in 4.5. Don't worry, they'll get it in 4.6 and it'll be even better. Our long-term project for C# is revolving around gradual move to GD extension, which is great. Core, this is going to be super important. If we scroll down and we take a look at this, we are getting trace call stacks in the debugger, which is really powerful. I was actually trying to deal with something the other day where I was trying to make sure that a project that one of my students was having trouble with, I couldn't work it out. It turns out it was something really I would not have expected, but I think trace call stacks would have been really helpful, because it wasn't throwing an error specifically, just something was wrong and we couldn't put our finger on it. So this is going to be really helpful. You can see that the output, you can just see what's called what. So this is going to be really good for if you're having trouble in testing, or you've shipped your game and you can't always figure out exactly what that error is, or even if it's not an error. So really good news. This is going to make things a lot easier. Okay, long time complaint. Pedro, my man Pedro fixed the resources.duplicate true. I have seen this where it's something is weird with it, and so now it's predictable and reliable. I don't know exactly how, but I guess I'll get to find out pretty soon when I load up some of my projects. Additional resource.duplicate delete gives us full control over what gets duplicated or not. Okay, and we've got some more improvements here. Orphan IDs. Print orphan nodes, which is probably going to be pretty important when you're dealing with removing a lot of stuff, or like when you do sometimes get errors when you're dealing with that, can be really annoying. Don't duplicate string num scientific and scene chain signal. That's pretty good. Documentation has been improved. So I don't know how, but it's been improved. Documentation is actually, I think, some of the best online that you can find for any kind of project. So the fact that it's even getting better now, is amazing. So thanks to everyone that's worked on that. Editor, I think this is a really significant improvement here. We've got a first-time contributor, Daniel080400, hopefully I got that right, came out of the gates swinging, which entirely overhauled the way the scene preview thumbnails are handled. And look at this. It just looks so good. It's going to make dealing with a lot of assets a lot easier. So that is a big improvement. So the particles are fast forwarded and the world center ensuring the objects fit into the scene. So they're all going to fit in and have nice little thumbnails here. Looks like 2D's gotten a bit of improvement too. So 2D thumbnails utilize 2 passes, 2D and GUI. So that's good. Rarely covered topic. The command palette is getting an improvement thanks to Olon Productions. Editor scripts. Okay, great. We have covered variant exporting. This functionality is brought to life by Tomas Cabra and bringing support for a dynamic variable in a standalone context with the ability to change not only a variable but the type itself. So that's pretty cool, built-in script. I wonder how you do that. I'm gonna have to dive in and check that out because I, as you guys might know from more recent videos, love to use export variables. So the ability to not only change the variable, but the type itself. Doors are wide open for creative integrations into the inspector. Yeah, that sounds really fascinating. Okay, so override settings, another couple of quick ones. Mute game in the game view, which will be good. If drop preload resources, allow selecting multiple remote nodes at the same time. Mission shapes. Okay, so like a lot of really cool stuff. GD script. A lot of people have been talking about this. This is a really fun new thing that is coming to 4.5. We are getting the abstract keyword, which brings a previously internal only function into the hands of GD script users. So this is going to allow you for more customization of your classes. And you can see in the example here, the best way to describe it is that you create a class, which is an abstract class like item, which is going to have like a bunch of things. And you're going to inherit that to create the healing potion. And like you're going to have an overrided function here, which is getName, which exists in the abstract class, but we're going to override it here. And basically, because it's an abstract class, you can't instantiate that. You can only instantiate the healing potion. So that is something that's going to be really useful in creating like a lot of complicated things. For example, potions. Weapons, I know that it's going to be handy making those kind of things. I do like multiple levels of class hierarchy for the projectiles and things like that. So having an abstract class at the top of all that is definitely going to come in handy. So Daniil isn't done as variadic argument support comes from him as well. I don't really know what this means. I'm sure some people who understand programming more than I do will understand the value in this. But you can allows functions to accept a flexible number of input parameters, which is pretty good if you have a function you don't know, or like things, the amount of things you can pass into it will change. I can't think of a situation where I would be able to use that, but I'm sure maybe one day it'll come up. Okay, don't add parentheses. Okay, so GDScript, other improvements. I love how this is just like a small little thing. This drives me crazy when you are adding a callable to like a signal or like anything that takes a callable, tweens, it always adds like two little, it adds parentheses at the end and then you have to delete them. Now it won't do that, which is handy. Auto completion for export tool buttons, for user methods, a lot of great things. Okay, so this I think is something that is really cool. The GUI is getting an improvement. And so BruvZG, I think I'm going to go with BruvZG, tackled the absolutely Herculean task of integrating Access Kit to Godot, which is GitHub Access Kit. This is like a UI for UI stuff. I don't know. It seems like a big deal. It's got a lot of stars, right? 1.3K stars. So screen reader support is now built into the core of the engine, which is actually really good for accessibility. And this I think is really cool. Foldable containers. So now I know there are people out there that create like fantasy operating systems, like OSs within Godot. I've seen it before. Now you can make a tiled windowed manager in Godot, I guess, which is really cool. Or for anyone that just has like a ton of menus in their game, I think foldable containers will actually come in really handy because I really like this kind of behavior in Windows. And if you've got a lot of them, maybe not down to this kind of small level, but still it's a big deal. So that's really exciting. There's also SVG textures, implemented very own BruvZG again, rasterization of SVG files directly. It's pretty cool. Okay, another huge addition in Godot 4.5 is the advanced import settings dialog, which will allow you to configure how import of specific 3D assets with a lot more flexibility. So if you've ever tried to import materials or models and the materials have never come through, this is going to be a huge improvement. We're going to be able to extract the material, make changes to it. You can see it happening here. So that is going to be really, really handy. You can see that there, you press the extract material, you've got the material now, and you can change whatever you need to change, which rather than having to create a whole new fresh material or whatever the heck. Input. I'm excited to see this. It's a very small, like little footnote, but SDL3 integration is coming to Godot for gamepad input for desktop platforms. So I'm really interested to see what that is exactly going to entail and how it can be, implemented. So this change should be merged for beta 2. Internationalization. This is a really good thing. Not something that I've ever experienced with. Obviously, I've never shipped a commercial game, but if you do have multiple translations of your game, it's going to be really easy to see the difference between the different languages now. You're simply just going to get a view button and a preview translation, and you can change it, and you can see here that everything is changing. So it's going to make things easier to see what the end user is going to experience, which is going to make testing your game a lot faster, I guess. Okay, navigation. I don't know too much about this problem, so that's good. Hopefully things are better. Physics. Our implementation of 3D fixed time step interpolation has been completely overhauled as the previous iteration had fundamental flaws. Great. With a simple patch, the solution already existed on 3.x and has been forward ported. Great. All logic is handled in the scene tree, but in a manner which doesn't break any existing APIs. Jolt physics, new 3D engine. Jolt's creator made nearly 20 fixes improvement, the ability to apply forces, chunk tile map physics, and soft body physics interpolation. Android. I can see already, I don't know if many of you are aware, but Android development of Godot games or project development, hobby development, whatever it is, on Android is actually really popular. I get a lot of questions in the Discord all the time, and people are using Android to work on their Godot projects quite a lot. So this improvement is going to be better, because if you haven't tried it before, I've got a tablet that I sometimes mess around with, and it can be a bit hard at times to deal with the editor because it is still the same editor that you see on your desktop. And so having this panel is going to make things like way smoother to deal with. I still think it's the best experience with a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse personally, but hey, any improvement is good. So that's really powerful. Enabled native debug, camera feed support, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to jump on to my Samsung Galaxy Tab and have a go at making another small game, because that was really fun. Linux. Okay. As you guys know, I use Linux. So on my daily, I'm recording right now on a Linux computer. And the quest to turn Wayland into a true replacement for the X11 protocol, something that I think a lot of application developers are grappling with. It's really been an ongoing battle to try and get applications and developers to move over to Wayland from X11. I myself still use X11, mostly just because things like, for some reason, OBS just crashes my entire computer on Wayland. And I'm sure there's a reason that I could figure out, but it's just easier to use X11 and not have that happen in the first place. So, the movement towards Wayland is something that's really important, especially for Linux development. I know there's a lot of people out there who do use Linux, and it's becoming more popular with things like the SteamOS and things like that. Multi-windowed output is better supported on Wayland, which is great, because for a time there, it was not even possible to use Wayland with Godot. So, improvements. macOS. I've never used macOS, so I don't really know. This OS does not allow the same kind of window manipulation that Windows and Linux use for game window embedding into process. Of course, they do something different. Okay, so to the editor, which handles passing through. So it sounds more complex, and it's getting improved, so that's good. Vision OS, in case there's one person out there developing Godot games on Vision OS, is being supported by Godot, which is great. So thank you, Ricardo. Web improvement. Web performance. There's been a performance boost in web development. And I don't know if this is to do with games exported to web or just development of Godot engine games in the web browser. Created at PR, which let's have web platform performance boost, so that you can experience your web games to run a bit more smoothly. So that is a big deal, especially for people like me who don't necessarily make commercial games. I'm like, most of the games that I make are for game jams or like little projects, and having them run in the browser is a little bit better, because if you're posting to itch.io and you want people to play your game, having it run on the web is just a little bit more accessible for people, especially in game jams. I think if you're making a game for a game jam, you're best doing it on the web if you can, like exporting for the web. Having a performance boost is really powerful. So I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, Windows. Oh no. Support for Windows 7. Call to remove Windows 8 wasn't difficult. Here's a hot take. I actually low-key liked Windows 8. I'm probably the only person who will say that. I still use this kind of full panel start screen because of Windows 8. I like it. It's nice. But other than that, it was pretty shit. The call to it wasn't difficult. It's been end of life for half a decade, and they extended the support. I'm surprised they even did that. But Windows 7, obviously more contentious. There's probably a lot of people out there who still use Windows 7. Honestly, if Windows 7 was still around or in support, I would maybe even still just be using that instead of Linux. Windows 10, Windows 11, it's a lot of overreach in terms of like what an OS should do, in my opinion. So like Windows 7, I think a lot of people would agree it was the last good Windows operating system. Maybe Windows 10. Windows 10 is not too bad. It is just GG Windows 7, unfortunately. But something that is really good, a major improvement, is that Windows icons will no longer rely on the third-party RC edit tool, which is really good. So I don't know if you guys have ever tried to replace the custom icon on your Godot game and using RC edit. It was a major pain in the ass, and we don't need that anymore, which is really good. I'm very interested to get in and try out this feature and see how it performs, because I had mixed results with RC edit to begin with. We'll see. Okay, rendering and shaders, stencils, with a PR in the making for nearly 2 years. Wow, Apple's great work has brought a long-awaited stencil support to Godot. So this looks really awesome. I'm really interested to see what people are going to do with this. I can already see like some kind of way to do like a cheat outline shader with this feature. This looks like it's going to come in real handy. We've got here custom X-ray material. That's really cool. Cell shaded lighting. When are we doing Wind Waker in Godot? It's possible now. Fire effect implemented entirely with standard material. Looks pretty good. So this is something that's really interesting. So here we can see one usability improvement via where Yuri reorganized the shader editor's UI as a whole, form of direct rendering improvements such as ambient specular occlusion, SMAA support, and bent normal maps. So it might be a bit hard to see the difference, but you can see with specular inclusion. So I think just look over in this left-hand corner here where you can see that the shadows are markedly darker. So that's good. And then SMAA, I sort of just like look at these bends and you can sort of see the geometry and the jagginess of the edges. And then you look at this one and you can sort of see a pretty big improvement there. So just like going back to this, like look at these jaggies along here and then go to this one and it looks smooth. So that's going to be good for a lot of different games. It's probably a little bit more noticeable in this one. You can see the grass here looking a little bit blurry, but you know, maybe for some people that's going to be better depending on what you're trying to make. Bent normal maps a little bit more difficult to see, but I think if you just look at these pots and you can see the improvement of the darker colors on these pots and sort of just like better material reflection, so you can sort of get the feeling this kind of looks like a dirty jug. And this, you can see that there's definitely coffee in the bottom of these jugs, if that's what you were going for. Everything just looks better. Baking shaders, this is a big deal. And I am thinking I need to like do some research, but I think this has to do with something that has played Godot for a really long time, which is it stutters when it compiles shaders for the first time. It doesn't do it before the game runs. You have to do that yourself, which is something that was really challenging. And so now you can bake shaders on export, which is a huge deal. Which, when enabled, all shaders will be pre-compiled at export time, ensuring players won't need to wait a long time for shaders to compile when running your game. Okay, so you might still need to compile shaders before you run your game to avoid that kind of stopping. So, but still, you can see like the load time on this. This one loops like way faster. This one's still at 75%, and you can see they're hitting play on that like multiple times over. So, obviously, a massive improvement. Motion vectors for mobile, I'm sure that's great. Standard material properties allows users to control FPS style objects, hand weapons, and tools close to the camera. Okay, interesting. I'll be checking that out for sure. Fragment density map support, motion vectors, coal mask internals, light decals, and particular particle colliders. That's cool. Be interested to see about that. Various performance optimization for mobile renderers, light map GIs, showing leaks. Okay, that's big. I've seen people complain about that. XR, something that probably doesn't get a lot of attention. Vendors 4.0 release. OpenXR had a 4.0 in April, which is worth checking out. Matthew had a massive first contribution merged to implement support for the Direct 3D 12 OpenR backend. Awesome. And that is it. 334 contributors submitted a staggering 1,800 fixes, which is just massive. So I'm going to be looking into getting into some of these and checking them out. So that is the Godot 4.5 Beta 1. Let me know what changes you're most excited about. I'm definitely interested in a few. I want to check out those menus. I don't know why, but I find this really cool. So that's a really big deal. Android, I want to give Android another go, just for fun, you know, and obviously the core stuff as well, like the debugging and the asynchronous. That's a really big deal. So I'm excited to try these out. And I'm going to be getting into it pretty soon. That is all for now. Big thank you to all the supporters of the channel. You can see them coming across the screen right now. I might even I'll minimize so it's easier. I know it's probably harder to read. I don't know. Anyway, big shout out to everyone who supports the channel. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one.